Hello people, and welcome back to part 30 of Ilos, our modded Cities Skylines build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Quick thank you, this is the first Ilos video since the milestone. A huge, enormous, mega thanks to you all for 50,000 subscribers. There was a special that went up on the channel this week, so please go out and check it out. It's a really fun video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And thank you for all the support in last week's Ilos, or this could be 2 weeks ago because this episode is going to take a long time to record. But the rough part of town was a really nice build. And thank you for all the comments and kind words on it. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'm just so happy with how this side of the city has turned out so far. And there's still so much more to build here as well. So many more ideas we can take from Phoenix to construct this really wonderful part of the city on the side of the main Mar grid frame. And a little bit of love for Ilos' nighttime skyline as well. Yes, please. Oh, just immensely happy with this city, everyone. I'm so glad you're all enjoying it as much as I am as well. However, today's episode, we would have seen the teaser opening and indeed the title of the video that you're currently watching. It's time to build the Ilos Sky Harbour in this enormous expanse north of the downtown. So it won't fill the entire area today, but it is going to take out a good chunk of it, and it should fit perfectly as the public transport crown for Ilos. There's a lot of work to do here today. Lots of concourses, runways, public transports, highways, and detailing to bring into the area in order to give this the proper respect that it deserves. But of course, this is a Phoenix-inspired build, so we need to head to Google Earth and check out the Phoenix Sky Harbour first. And just southeast of Phoenix lies the Phoenix Sky Harbour International Airport. A super distinct, unique-looking airport, the Sky Harbour. Now, of course, every time we come to Google Earth, we are not going for direct recreations. I like to think I'm getting better with the mods, but this level of procedural objects and assets needed is beyond me and my gameplay style. This is more for sort of Palm's time, isn't it? Let's face it. But we can take some really nice ideas today from the Sky Harbour layout, including but not limited to 3 runways, 2 the same length, and then a shorter one on the south side here. We can also take a little inspiration from taxiways passing over the central kind of pedestrian concourse bit of the airport. The planes actually do pass over here. Also, any public transport lines, the Sky Harbour does actually have kind of an internal monorail system shuttling people from terminal to terminal alongside just to the edge of the airport as well. How exactly do we enter the airport? Let's examine the road network against the highway. We can see essentially kind of a weird combo interchange. The bottom half of this is like the bottom half of a diamond slip ramp, while the top half is almost half of a Y interchange. It's very interesting and very easily replicatable in Cities Skylines, of course, to enter against one of our Mar grid arterial frames, which is right here, and then we can start a road entrance exactly as we like. And granted, it won't be to this scale because the Sky Harbour is absolutely enormous and is in fact wider than downtown Phoenix itself, and that's just not going to work to scale in cities, I think, for the size of Ilos. So we're going to have to scale things down a little bit. But number of runways, the number of main terminal systems that we can see, road entrances and nearby interchanges to the airport can all be factored in when we're taking inspiration from Google Earth. I'm very much looking forward to trying out my first ever modded airport. Let's build Ilos Sky Harbour, shall we? Okay guys, so let's walk through our initial sort of concepts and thought processes for the runways, of course, in an airport build. These are always the wisest thing to put down first because they're the largest and take up the most amount of room. So let's give some priority to a runway. We're going to come onto a road guideline snap near the highway, possibly about here. Let's come for 10 units away. Now I'm going to draw in my first runway at a distance of 250 units. I'm also going to bring it a touch further back than that, perhaps over to about this side if we can find it. There we go, there's 250, and there we go, that's what we're after, okay? Wonderful. So that's going to give us quite a nice aesthetic of planes landing right next to the highway, right? It's going to be quite cool, isn't it? Going to be taken off, lots of nice fence detail to be had around here as well. Should be quite fun. So that's going to give me a first initial template, right? Then what I want to do is come in with a taxiway. And I'd like to bring this in, ideally, again, sort of 10 units between. 10 units is the magic number today, okay? So we're going to leave 10 units between the taxiway and the first runway. Then off the back of that, we also want to do another 10 units, and then from here, I also want to draw in the second runway now. So again, let's see what we can do. We know that we're going to be here. Let's draw that up so we know where the 10 unit marker is. So it's also come on with anarchy. And then we can just align that there. And then we should be able to do another 250 units right here as well. Okay, that's going to give us plenty of space between the taxiways and the runways to configure the landing patterns in. Okay, so should be quite fun today. Likewise, at the end, we should also come out here as well. And then we'll also change this one in so they can come back down. And then they can head back out into the concourses. And then again, we'll do another unit of 10 as we come back out. So of course, what we will do during our detailing time lapse today is, because this is our first modded airport, we now have the wonderful world of node controller available to us, which allows us to stretch out these taxiways, which is so cool. This is going to allow for some really nice, cool, interesting patterns on the runways once they're sort of ready and available. Because things are going to be chopping and changing for right now, we're not going to do it just yet. We'll do that at the end, because we're going to cut taxiways and runways back and stuff to help them work a little bit more effectively. So there's one rule that I want to follow for this airport, and that is that the concourse buildings I want at least to be 40 to 50 units away from the nearest runway. So we can see that that there would be 40, so we can possibly do 50 here. Okay, no, I know that I've anarchied that over. These are very much just holding frames for right now. So there is a couple of different packs on the workshop that you can use for concourses, but there's none that I found that I really liked, so I'm probably going to go with ultra modern and maybe a little bit of modern airport concourse as well. We will see. Okay, wonderful. So now what I'd like to start doing is discussing the terminal and concourse layouts. So let's snap onto a road guideline here. We're going to give ourselves 20 tiles, and then we're going to do 30. And then we're going to grab a terminal building, and we're going to snap that on at 90 degrees. We're going to do another 30. So this is going to be good enough for one side of the terminal here, okay? And again, we can place in some of our airport stands, of course, and just sort of get a general vibe for how we're feeling here. Of course, we can possibly decide on a template. Why don't we try to do something a little bit more interesting? Why don't we go for 3 medium aircraft stands? And then we'll do an airport lounge. I think that'd be quite nice. And then we can just use Move It now to grab all 3 of those things and then copy and paste that pattern over into the next sections. And I think that should give us quite a nice aesthetic alongside the concourses if we do 3 landing areas and then an airport lounge flanked by 3 landing areas, lounge, 3 landing areas, lounge, etc. We can then connect all these medium aircraft stands in together. Now I do know I'm going to want a cargo terminal over here as well. I think we will bring cargo into this airport today, but as to where that actually lies, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so let's just go ahead and bring in connection through there, and then it's at these points now where node controller can do some really wonderful things for us. We can just really stretch everyone out and give it that kind of much more important taxiway, runway vibe, because there's a ton of decals and stuff you can grab off the workshop for these sorts of things, but node controller will do a tremendous job for us, I think, right? So of course we'll worry about taxiway configurations in a moment, but this should position my first 2 runways fairly sensibly, and I've got a rough idea of where my concourses are going to sit. So now I'd like to use the concourses again to judge exactly where that second area of the airport is going to be. So I'm going to do a 15 unit measurement. I'm going to come in and grab the ultra modern terminal, the big boy, the large one. This one's going to be quite the eye draw for the area, isn't it? And these can be awkward snaps, so what I'm going to do instead is actually bring in a dirt road that's on the same parallel line as the concourses. Go ahead and grab that terminal there. We can snap that onto the road so we know it's the same orientation now. Let's come ahead and grab the modern concourse again. This time we can remove the dirt road frame. I often find doing something with frames is massively helpful for setting up these airport areas, modded or not. Okay, and then again, node controller will work on the concourses as well. And we can do some fun things with stretching out here to, bring some slightly more interesting shapes into the concourse. But of course, things will change and amend here. So we'll save a lot of our node controller work for the end. Fantastic, but there we go. That's going to be 1/2 of the output. Okay, now we can just mimic the measurements here. We knew that we were at a measurement of 18 units here. So we can do that same thing again. And whilst holding control, we can snap to the angle that we require. There we go. So there's 18 units. And then we know that we can just remeasure this one. As always, 76. And that will bring us up level and give us the initial sort of first landing area for the Sky Harbour. And then again, another simple process now, as we can just find out exactly where we were coming up here. Let's snap onto that guideline and make sure that we're there. That is not what we want to do. Let's try that again. So yeah, we can land at the road guideline for the concourse, and then use that to say, okay, I now want my next runway to be at least 50 units away from this concourse, and that's going to give me the next sort of landing area here. And then I can just draw this in now, again, at a distance of another 250 units, okay? And then we can delete this, and then we can now configure this runway into the rest of the terminals, okay? Cool, so this is just some nice sort of brief ideas and thought processes and measurement designs that you can follow in order to configure runways and taxiways against the terminal before we start thinking about any sort of larger main infrastructure like road networks that come in and detailing within the middle. And we do have some very nice ideas for detailing what is now becoming quite a central rundown into the main airport complex, isn't it? That's going to be quite nice. Again, we know that we did a little concourse on the side here. Not a concourse, sorry, a terminal. So from the edge of that one to this one is 28 units. So let's repeat that one again. Let's do the other side. 28, there we go. And then we know that the ultra modern 2-story terminal is what snaps onto here at that 90-degree angle. I guess it's 180 degrees, right? Then again, just a simple remeasure. Let's see, it's 30 units. And there we go. Okay. Cool. So there is something else I would also love to happen. Again, as we have a new runway, let's set up the absolute basic configuration, which is a 10-unit connection of each of the sides, of course, making sure that the edges of the runway or the end of the runway leaves rather than coming in, because otherwise they will come in and immediately take off. So we don't want that to be happening. So let's have this coming all the way down. Okay, there we go. That's the basic essential configuration for runway and taxiway. Now what I'd like to do is actually have the taxiway cross over in this fashion. So we can see it's a 90-degree angle here. I'm happy with that. What I'd then like to do is also come down by another 10-unit distance to find out that that one is there. That is going to be 10 units. And then again, draw that one up, making sure that we're very precise with our angles so everything stays nice and symmetrical. What we do want to do with the network multi-tool here is remove a lot of the extra nodes that generate within these taxiways, because there is a lot of them, and this is going to eat up massively into our node count, and we don't need all of them. So what we'll do is, come the end, I'll just do a huge sweep through the entire build with the network multi-tool and just see what can be changed and what can be helped with it. I just want to make sure that we have enough room here to actually bleed back into the main taxiways. It looks like we should do. Yeah, everyone's going to be fine here. So I'm happy with the distance there. That's going to be okay. So now, quite randomly, what I'd like you to do is to come in with a little bit of regular pavement pathway from the base game. Okay, and I just want to have this directly in the middle. Sometimes the road guideline will mess with us. Yeah, let's just go for about there. Okay, that's roughly in the middle. Then with Move It, grabbing the entire concourse and terminal configuration with a marquee select, we're going to come down to this little triangle. We're going to hit Mirror Objects. And then we want to make sure that Segments is selected, so we can hit this little pathway here. And that's going to happen, okay? It's going to enormously ruin your terminals here, but that's fine, okay? All we need to do now is just give them a little bit of a trim up, okay? And you'll notice that it just tidied itself up a little bit, okay? There we go. So, but it's a much quicker way of getting everything hooked in together. And then just a simple case now of reconnecting all of your terminal buildings back in. Okay, and there we go. So that's going to give us a little bit of equidistance between each of these main terminal buildings here, which will sort of lend itself well in with the symmetry that's required for this build today. Okay, but a nice general idea and shape here. Okay, so the concourses are a little bit bare, a little bit naked, and quite thin at the minute, alright? A little bit underwhelming, right? Very vanilla, aren't they? But of course, don't forget, we will node control these during our D10 timelapse to give them a little bit more importance. Again, we can just have a little look at configuring in some of the landing spots, just so we know that we do have the space to accommodate these. Let's go for them. So I'm just going to line up the blue sort of edge of the square with each of them. I'm going to come back into my pattern of a airport lounge every landing space. There we go. Let's get another one in. And then this should give us enough room here. Okay, for some large aircraft stands on this side. And again, just checking from our waterfront build, which will maintain a wonderful view to the airport today with the overcharged egg trams, of course. That should be quite special, shouldn't it? Once you got planes coming and going on that runway. Very nice. Very nice. It's exciting, isn't it? It's exciting. I'm hope that the first modded airport does come to fruition today. It'd be a shame if it was a crap build, so to speak. Okay, so now it's just a case of, again, identifying where and when the airplane stands can be hooked into the various different taxiway configurations. We can do a slight angle here on the road guideline. And then there we go. Again, another opportunity right there for node controller to take effect, isn't it? Perhaps after the third ones here, we can do a line that cuts through. Again, we'll come on with the same angle ideally every time if we can. Like an angle of 52%. And then we can play with the props here now. We can align some larger planes to perhaps sit stationary over this side. Okay, with a little bit of surface painter now, which is possibly the biggest airport quality of life mod, I think, isn't it? The surface painter. It's going to really help us bring in lots of concrete today. Alright, but already now with a couple of props and the placements of our terminals and concourse buildings, we can start to see a larger, more significant sort of public transport space develop, can't we? Then we can, there we go. So that's some planes choosing to leave here already. Yes, please. That is what we want to see, isn't it? Oh, yes, it's the overcharged egg planes as well. That is what we like. These are going to immediately take off, though, obviously. This isn't configured correctly, but, you know, it will be eventually. But we do get a look at the wonderful OE planes from Blue Thunder. Massive. First time we've used these, because it's the first time we've done a modded airport. But absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Blue Thunder. I appreciate these, mate. Even though they're immediately taken off again. You can see right where the taxiway configuration just needs switching about. Like this one's behaving properly, okay? But really cool to see some OE passenger planes coming and going from Ilos now. Very cool, and again we can get an impression of the planes and the size of the airport now with the skyline in the background from the highway. Yes, please. Yes, please. So good. So good. Very happy with it. Is every single plane OE, or is it all mix and match? Yes, this is more OE over this side. There you go, yeah. Okay, so it's not OE every time then. That is quite cool. I do like that. These guys are getting ready to take off as well. As well, these guys. Yes, there we go. Got a big jumbo coming in now too. Yes, please. That's so good. You're going to take off? I'm guessing you will, right? You would have just left the jumbo stands over here. Very cool. It's always nice when you first hit play on these airport areas. There it goes. Very cool. Awesome. So very happy with that. Okay, we've now got the aesthetics. Oh yes, hold on. This is it. Sorry, this is getting battle with distracted here. Oh my word. Yes. Seawall keys. I've been waiting for this view for a long, long time. Yes, the planes passing by from the waterfront sort of entertainment area. We can maybe get a further impression of it here. Oh, how nice is that going to be to be sat in the foreground? Or the background? So good. Oh, yes, that is a serious Cities Skylines satisfaction moment, everyone. Yes, and I'm also loving the aesthetic of two main separate terminal and concourse areas as well. That's come to fruition, hasn't it? Yes, please. Of course, plenty of little airport viewing parks to be built here as well, as and when we want a little bit more personality brought into the waterfront. But there we go, there's the Super OE Jumbos. Okay, which is also the term used to describe me after eating a 14-inch pizza. Well, there we go. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to fly through now. We'll speed this up and get some airplane stands placed around all of the edge of the concourses. Trim up some shapes and designs and make sure that the taxiways and runways are completely and correctly configured with one another, so every single plane stand has access to at least one runway in the correct configuration. So, we'll be right back. Okay guys, so we have come to a configuration with our taxiways and runways, and also dropped in some surface painter in and around where it's sort of deemed appropriate. Okay, so let's throw in our airport view and you can have a little check with the one-way systems. So, of course, as always, with the ends of the runways, we want to have them leave as they land and then enter as they need to take off. And every single taxiway and aircraft stand here has access to a stand, of course, and then back to a runway. And it's also nice to see when there's actually planes coming and going, of course. Now the simulation's ran for a little bit. There's no one coming in because it needs power and connections, of course. But planes from this side, from these stands, are actually taking a journey over to these runways. So the airport is looking nice and busy, of course, once it has planes in it. So I'm really happy with the configuration of the runways, the taxiways and the concourses. It's going to fill a really nice space for us in downtown Ilos, almost the same width as the actual sort of downtown itself now, right? Nice and big, which is what we want. So the next part of the airport construction I'd now like to talk about is the configuration of the entry roads that are going to lie within the actual airport concourse space itself. So I'm going to use some highway roads for this, and predominantly we're going to use the one direction 2-lane one-way highway. So let's come on to a road guideline snap and let's see how much distance we have here. We've got 46 units, which is going to be more than okay for me. So a halfway point here, let's also make sure that we are setting up some initial frames with a rural road, which usually helps out quite a bit, I find. Okay, so that's going to be 46 units, so we'll find a halfway point here, which should be about 23. There we go, so we know that this central node here is 23 units, and then again we can roughly find the halfway point between here. So we'll go for 11 units, that's going to be that one there, and then again 11 units should be from this one. Spin our camera around, yes, there we go, that is 11 units again as well. Okay, so just some initial frames should allow us to respect some of the symmetry that's going to be coming into this sort of area. So now what I'd like to do is come back into the 2-lane highways, and I'm going to align these roads with the halfway markers in between. So a road guideline here is going to be helpful, and then I'm going to come down and recess this road by about 6 meters. Okay, I'll do exactly the same over on this side here again. And there we go. All right, cool. So now we can remove these frames here. It's going to be fine. And then this can run over here now. Likewise, this one as well can now come down. Now I'm going to tunnel these, all right? We're going to tunnel them directly under the terminals and allow them to emerge out the other side over here. But of course, we'll do one, and then we might just be able to copy and paste the road network over actually, and then just use a little bit of network multi-tools intersect node segments. This one here will allow us to just allow everyone in, but we'll see what's the most easiest sort of configuration. We'll get one side done first. Okay, so this is fine, right? This is going to be enjoying the general design for me for right now. Let's carry on talking about the road network. I'm going to come with a little bit of level terrain, right? I'm going to dig this down and scoop out this landmass that now lies between the two recessed road networks. Okay, up until about here. And again, I can probably use those rural dirt roads as a boundary because we're going to have monorail in here as well, don't forget today. So we'll have that there. So I'll scoop out this landmass. I've got a really nice idea for what's going to lie within this space today. Really huge kind of centerpiece for the airport concourses. It should be quite fun. So this is nice and wide, right? Nice and important. And I'm going to be mostly happy with this for the time being. Now I'm going to piece together the roads here, not with a pathway though, with a road. Let's go for that dirt road again. So that's going to give me a boundary here, and then a boundary here as well, which I know is when my tunnels are going to start. So I'm pretty happy with this for right now. Let's also make sure that this node is on the same elevation as that one. There we go. And then I just want to sink down now, right? Let's come back into our terrain tools. We're going to bring the brush strength way down. And then just add a little recess. So we're obviously going to put some water in here. And I'm thinking it'd be quite appropriate for the desert to almost have water at the gateway to the airport. Almost like it's kind of referencing perhaps some sort of oasis. Like it's the way in and out of the desert. And I think it's quite appropriate to have water. So we're going to see what we think of it anyway. Alright, there we go. So general shape and idea. Let's go ahead and grab that water source block. We're going to come way down to basically 0.8. We're going to drag that in, and then we're just going to let that fill the space that we've made available for it. Cool. However, things are not over yet. Let's now come into the world of public transport, and we'll let this lake fill up while we come ahead and grab ourselves a monorail station, which is now going to sit here. Again, plenty of detailing and road intricacies to be had with this as it flows around the concourse itself. However, there's something I'm very keen to bring into this build, and this is the idea of really short, ever so slightly recessed monorail line, which is something that is possible due to the mods. Okay, let's just have that come up there, and you'll notice just as we allow the monorail to sit really close to the ground here, again, this can be achieved with Move It. It's going to add such a nice little layer of depth into the road network once monorails are actually passing up and down this. It's going to be truly fantastic, and of course this monorail system can now exit out this side of the airport, and eventually out the side of the other one as well, whilst also continuing to flow into the city. We can now establish new public transport networks. Perhaps a monorail station can converge that intercity, and tram stop points over by the waterfront. So again, it's just more opportunities now for us to make sure that everyone can interlink with each other and sort of get around. It's a really cool idea, right? I'm going to be super happy with this general concept. It will flood ever so slightly, of course. We'll have to wait for our water to just settle and behave itself, so don't worry too much about that for right now. We should be okay. Alright, cool. So let's grab the level terrain now, and we'll start talking about how we're going to hook in these concourses into the build, which again should be quite fun. So I'm just going to scoop out an enormous cavity here to let the roads leave eventually. Again, taking a look at how all those layers sort of interlink in the Sky Harbour in Phoenix. We can take inspiration from that, but for right now we just want the breathing room available to us. Cool, and then this can also be broken now as well, because the lake won't extend any further down from this point. Okay, so now I'd like to discuss what's going to happen with the terminal entrances. So I'd like to actually bring out road connections from them first before we do anything else. So let's go for 20 units for the bottom one. Of course, respect our directions as well. There is a one-way flow system active within an airport. And then with the top layers, I'd actually like to just curve these over. We're also going to turn off road snapping as well, or node snapping rather, because I'd like them to ever so slightly just crisscross over each other. Also come off with the collision off as well. And then again, coming back to the road guideline, we're going to establish the secondary connection over this side as well. And then again, we can let them run down. And then we can just use network multi-tools, create curve mode for this now. Just to get us a nice, sensible curve in. Let's go for this one. There we go. And then that'll give us the most sensible curve. And then again, this can be jiggled around. And there we go. Okay, cool. So I'd also like to delete this one now as well. And then let's bring this one out. So yeah, let's do another 20 units. That's to make sure we have node snapping back on. Okay, and then with this one, I would just like it to very gradually descend back down to the earth now. Over a distance of 13 units, this should be okay. And then from this point now, we can eye up a sensible judgment between these roads here. This one can come off whilst this one continues on a curve road tool to connect in with the bottom layer. And then of course, nuances of node controller will be more than welcome here. Perhaps also a touch of move it just to help our kind of shattered friends sit in a little bit easier. Of course, all the little mod configurations and whatnot can be brought in now to make this look appropriate. Okay, intersection marking tool. Height settings will also be more than welcome here too, alongside that one. Okay, and then probably a little bit of network multi-slope as well, if we come into this one. And then we will slope from here down to here, and then just say okay. And then again, there we have it now. Okay, there is one entrance of the airport configured in. Okay, and that's going to give us some really nice opportunities, and indeed little layers now that'll start to make this sort of open forecourt within the airport concourses themselves a little more detailed, because of course so much of the detailing and the aesthetic of an airport lies within the actual airfields themselves, but it can be easy to neglect these opening sections. And a little bit of curvature with network multi-tool, a bit of a central lake, which of course will be decorated come the end today as well, once the water has settled down. It should give us a relatively nice time. Again, it's really simple and easy now. We can probably bring in, I imagine, a nice curvature tool here with the road. So let's come down into a 2-lane avenue with trees. Palm opportunities definitely here with the roads. Now we can upgrade them. Okay, let's keep those curvatures going. I'll keep that bottom layer hooked in. Again, there's now opportunities where we can break those initial frames and then perhaps bring off another angle on this side, again with node controller and IMT opportunities available to us all. And because we've pre-measured everything with equidistant concourses from terminal buildings, everything's going to snap near enough perfectly symmetrically now. Okay, fantastic. Again, I think the ability to sort of curve over and above the highways here is going to be something that I'm interested in taking up. Perhaps we can come off the road guideline. And then again, I'm going to draw out a little section here, and then probably a touch of the old network multi-tool. Again, on the right mode would be helpful. There we go. And then just change our direction around. And then there we go. So of course we'll want to just amend any pillar junk with move it. Let's just spin this one around and then bring it off to the side. Okay, and then tidy up any pillars that are left within the roads. We should be okay here though. Okay, but I'm really happy with the constant sort of flowing aesthetic of roads coming under and over each other. It's going to create a very windy sort of vibe, isn't it, across the concourses. I'm really happy with it. I think it's going to come out quite nicely. And then exactly the same process over this side now, again as well, in order to get back down onto that road. It's something we can respect. And now that I'm seeing the lake sort of come into position, I think I definitely want it to extend all the way down until we reach these two nodes as we enter the airport, at which point we can say, right, okay, this is kind of the start, if you like, okay, of the opening concourse. And of course, we'll have some cargo stations to put over here as well today, with the cargo airport buildings, which we'll get to eventually. This is a bloody massive build. Okay, long episode today, everyone. I hope you're sat down with some snacks and some drink, enjoying yourself as we piece together our first modded airport on the channel. Cool. Let that run down. I will initially show you what I'm thinking for this lake here. So we're going to use a lot of the water-themed rocks. Okay, lots of these. There's some big ones in there as well. Like, not too much symmetry within the actual lake. I really just want these tiny little just shards of rock poking up everywhere. I might even bring the water layer down a little bit. I want this to be really shallow. Okay, and then of course let's come into the world of after dark lights, and I know exactly which colour I want to use here. Let's come in for the little turquoise numbers. There we go. We're going to come on to our prop light tool. Let's come off of the linear fence fill and we'll go for 20. We should be okay for the nighttime view here. Let's go for that one. Is that what we're after? Let's also come on with prop anarchy. There we go, prop line to anarchy. So let's go for 25 meter spacings. Possibly 30 actually. Don't really want to overdo it, but we'll see what we can do. And then essentially with the full length of this little man-made lake in the airport forecourt, I want to have turquoise lights lighting up, and then of course we'll also complete the aesthetic with some content creator palms outside of the monorail station. There we go. Let's also upgrade these two sections into the road as well. There we go, that's what we want. So the general aesthetic of the Ilos Sky Harbour is now coming to fruition, okay? You'll imagine what this looks like once we have the monorails flanking really low to the ground and cars everywhere, planes coming and going from the background and repeated palms against the silhouette of the orange Ilos sunset. Should be quite fun, shouldn't it? It should be quite fun. I'm really looking forward to seeing this airport in action. My testings have really sort of pleased me as this has gone on. Okay, cool, but you're getting the general concept, right? This is what we're doing with Ilos' sort of main forecourt. I'm just going to go ahead now and repeat the exact same measurements on this side, so it's mirrored over here as well. Same with the point. And then basically just move it to select every single node within the central concourse area. And then just copy and paste it into this space here, so we can hook it into this highway eventually. And then we're going to have, again, more sort of mirrored, nice, symmetrical, very grand public transport infrastructure that's waiting to greet us in Ilos. So, should be good. So, let's get everyone hooked in, and I'll also get the monorails flowing as well. And then we'll be right back. Okay, guys, so let's have a little review of what's happened to the airport. So we now have our final taxiway and runway configurations in alongside the two terminals, and you can see that we've just used Move It to copy the bulk of the internal forecourt infrastructure over into each side of the terminals. So, of course, once this has car parks in it and multi-stories, which we'll get to detailing the front of these eventually today, they should look a lot more impressive now. And I'm really happy with the super kind of wavy networks that generate now from the bird's eye view, and then also the symmetry happening between the terminals as well. Between the taxiways, and then I wanted to try and expose a little bit of the road as it passes under the terminals, and almost just like a brief little window into the airfield, and I'm really happy with this. It's actually turned out quite nicely, and we can see right through the tunnel there as well, of course, into the other side, and then it emerges back out here and eventually off into the desert out this side. But really cool, just like a little bit of exposed road in the airfield, and it looks a little bit strange now, but once we've detailed this up and surrounded it with props and whatnot and a little bit of security fencing, this should be quite a nice addition into the otherwise extremely flat airfield. So weirdly enough, out of today's episode, I'm most excited to be doing this. This is a really fun sort of configuration setup that we've seen in Phoenix. So we're working with half of a Y interchange, and then on the other side, it's half of a diamond, which indeed raises the question, what other combinations of interchange could you guys come up with? Maybe you could do like a half diverging diamond, half dumbbell, or maybe a half cloverleaf, half turbine, or a half trumpet, half dumbbell. Who knows? Possibilities are possibly endless, right? I don't know. We'll have to have a little chat about that in the Discord, I think. Okay, so we've upgraded a middle section of this highway into a bridge now, which should do us a decent enough job. So then what I'd like to do is come in and grab yet again some more rural frames to snap onto the road guideline, and this should give us an initial sort of base layer for the time being. So let's come into the 6-lane roads. We're going to be using the big brick round ones today, and then let's go for this guideline right here. Be good if we can get it somewhat in the middle. Way about there should be good, I think. So the interconnectivity here should be really good for the airport. We've got a Margrid frame road that is coming down and currently dead, and then also a highway road which has nearby sort of access ramps up into some lower parts of the Margrid over this side. So these roads should end up getting quite a lot of use as they become hooked in today. So let's see what we want to do. Let's bring this road down. I'm going to be using the same roads here again, but I want to actually switch over to a touch of 7-lane asymmetry here before we do anything else. So I'd like to go, that's 90 degrees right there, isn't it? Let's make sure we come down here by another 10. So we'll do 10 there, then we'll grab the asymmetry. And then, yeah, that's what we want. So I want the first 10 units out of this junction to be the asymmetry road, which is really going to help with traffic in the long run, because I imagine this is going to become a fairly busy junction, but traffic manager and some appropriate lane maths will help us. So let's come into traffic manager. We'll go for the turning lanes, lane arrows. There we go. We'll hold control and hit click, and that'll give us the dedicated turning lanes. And then 10 units of, well, 10 tiles will be enough space for traffic to back up and disperse into their chosen lane, I think. And that's also really nice from the bird's eye view as well, isn't it? Yes, please, everyone. That's quite nice. Okay, cool. So now, as we come into the Sky Harbour, this will be the road that enters the airport mainly by itself, which we will begin to prepare that connection. And there's a few different things off of this road as well. And it's looking like little offices and some car parks. Again, all fun little nuances for our detail and time lapse, right? Cool. So we'll leave that there for the time being. This is to be hooked into those roads. That's great. So then I want to come into the highway now, and we're going to grab the 3 lanes in each direction. So 6 lanes total, right? So we'd like to bring it off here, and I think we're going to go for a 16 or 15 meter distance off the road, and then we're going to elevate by 9 meters. Now this could be potentially too tall, but we will leave it in and see how we feel about it come the end today, alright? Cool. So let's begin to construct the highway ramps. This should be quite fun. We're going to come in with the 1 lane, so we're going to turn off road bending, and then from this one right here, I'm after quite a narrow angle, about 14 degrees should be okay, I think. And again, any inconsistencies like this, we need not worry about now, of course. There we go. I'm happy with that angle now for the slip exit. This is the same process we did way back when, which feels so long ago now, doesn't it, when we built this? The same slip ramps here, okay, with the same angle and same thought process down at the bottom, with the 3 turning lanes and some generous IMT as well if you're feeling a little bit dangerous. Okay. I do like this diamond interchange. Enormous shout out for 2C in our community for walking me through this process with Move It to mirror the retaining walls under the highway. Just so nice. 2C is just our intersection princess. There's few people better at designing intersections than Mike. Shout out to him. Really, really nice guy. So let's come into our multi-network tool. We're going to grab slope. We will slope up from here down to the bottom. Everyone's going to be happy with that. Let's even it out a little bit. Cool. And then I'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. Again, just remembering the angle we were at, which was 14 degrees. Cool. And that can just feed off straight into there. Same process to be applied here, of course, in a second too. So something really interesting is happening over here, isn't it? So with the half of the Y interchange, what we're going to do first is actually draw in a little holding frame just a couple of grid snaps away from the main road. Again, we can see what's happening on Google Earth here for plenty of inspiration. So again, we're going to do the same. We're going to respect that 14 degree angle coming off the highway. And then what we can do here now is a little bit of multi-network tool to create a connection mode between these 2 pieces here. And then again, we can just, I want to remove this one actually, there we go. Just create a nice sensible curve between them. Network multi-tool here, so also remove some nodes off of the highway because just going to cause issues further down the line. There we go. Of course, the IMT from Eggsy's work needs to be tidied up here now, but that's okay, we can do that as well. And then let's rotate these around. So really interested to see how this interchange system works, half of a diamond and half of a Y. It's yeah, it's a concept I've never really thought of before, but I bet we can have some fun with this concept, you know, almost like kind of Frankenstein interchanges, like different bits of interchanges fused together, see how efficient we can make it. That might be quite fun actually. Let me know if we're interested in exploring that idea together. So what I'd like to do now is get the 2-lane variant, if we can find it, probably this one. Yes, there we go. I think I'm happy with that. And then we'll grab the 1-lane ones again. And then we can just curve these off now into the desert and allow them to flow into their respective connections. Of course, any awkward instances of junk can be tidied up usually with a couple of stretches and move at a node controller, which will make this look a little bit more sensible in a second, of course. But again, I think another little 14 degree angle unit coming off of the highway is going to be grand. So we'll do that again as well. Cool. And then there we go. So now we have our basic connections in. We can just decide now which pieces we actually want elevated. So again, glancing back at what is happening in Phoenix, I can see that this top one here remains elevated while the second half of the Y here actually touches back down on the ground again before actually embanking back up onto the ground. So again, we can do different ideas here today. So what I'm keen to happen here is, again, the continued implementation of high-speed access road that we use quite a lot in Cities Skylines these days, dating back to the days of Palavin's Ring Road. So I'd like this road to continue on its trajectory to meet up with this one here, and we can just hit the road guideline. And again, we can network multi-tool this to give it another connection back into the mile grid, which is going to be tremendously helpful. I think now I'd like to grab the 2-lane one. We're going to come back down to the ground here. Then we're going to pretty much draw this right up in the middle. Let's move the pillar over a touch in the way now. Okay, so then we'd also like to grab the 1-lane directional one. And again, grabbing our node and respecting an angle of 14 degrees. Oh, we should be okay for 16 here actually, I think. Yeah, that should be okay. Then I'm actually going to curve this straight into the same node, right? Grab a touch of node controller, of course, as always. Stretch it out, and of course we'll tidy all that up, as always. And then I want to stretch everyone here out, and what I'd like to do is actually offset the red and then the orange. Cool. I'd also like to do the same thing again for this side now too, so let's come out of the same node. And then we'll do a nice little sort of curvy number initially, and then a straight section immediately back into the main road at a 180 degrees snap. If we can at all help it, 175 should be okay. Then again, just amend everyone off, give it a little stretch, offset our orange friend. And this should be mostly alright once we offset green as well. There we go. Again, there's lots of spicy IMT to be had in here as well come the end, once we want to refine everything up. And again, a touch of the old network multi-slope from top to bottom. Should help us settle in a little bit more. Okay, so again, plenty of detailing opportunities, IMT work to be done around here. Lots of inspiration to be taken from Google Earth, of course. So don't be afraid when you're setting up these sort of wider road networks, especially around airports, to go and get into the street view in Google Earth, see exactly what's happening down on the roads. It can be a tremendous amount of fun. It really can. There we go. Okay, so this is starting to look a little bit more nicer now, isn't it? Again, some consistencies need to be changed just to amend bends and whatnot, but all work for our detail time lapse. I really just want to get someone hooked into the highway today. And then with this one here now, I'm just going to grab the 1-lane one. I'll actually make this 2-lane, I think. There we go. And then let's grab you on a freeform curve. And then you will just amend back up to here. And then on a nice little freeform action, hopefully just hook into the same node as we are connected into here as well. And here we go. The first plane is about to touch down at the Ilos Sky Harbour. Let's follow it in, shall we? See what we think. There we go. Oh, yes, so cool. So you pass the skyline. Oh, yes. This has been such an incredibly complex and intricate build for someone of my skill level, everyone, and it's nice to see it coming slowly to fruition. This has been a long, old recording session so far. Wonderful. So he's ignoring our first two terminals here. He's going to take the next exit down. So I'll briefly show off the taxiway configuration here for those that are interested. There you go. I will briefly pause with a bird's eye view. There you go. Okay. If you'd like to be interested to see how all of this works, then there you go. You can pause the video here and take a screenshot if you'd like to replicate the taxiway system. Otherwise, let's watch the plane come in, shall we? Let's see where he goes. So I'm assuming he's going to take a left turn here, right? And then probably a right turn. He's coming over to these stands. Yes, please. There we go. Node controller is going to be tremendous for all of these sorts of junctions around here during the detailing time lapse today, isn't it? And he's going to pull into one of these stands. And hopefully we should see some people emerge out the other side of the terminal. And then into the network. I'm actually quite interested to see where they go. We are just going to hang around and watch Ilos for a couple of minutes here, everyone. Sorry, you can use the chapters below to skip ahead to the next part of the build if you're interested, but I do just want to see how people choose to move around this enormous bit of infrastructure. And of course they won't stop at this one either, will they? Because it's not connected in, you idiot. Of course they'll only stop at these ones. Oh, there's another plane over there now as well. Very nice, okay. Starting to get picked up then, aren't they? So yes, even the large planes are using these runways over here as well, which is good. This is going to make this sort of central reservation taxiway system a lot more effective for us. That should be quite good. Very nice. So multiple planes coming in now. Very nice indeed. In hindsight, I'm also wishing we'd have built Area 51 sort of way over there now. This was probably the wrong place for it, but it's there now, isn't it? There's not much we can do about it. Okay guys, so I've just carried on tidying up a little bit of the road network on the east side of the airport, and it's getting some nice use now. There's plenty more work to do around here, of course, with node controller and IMT, but that'll all come. But it's nice to see it in use. It's really cute. There's some basic node controller and intersection marking to work on the main intersection over here. And we will feed this road off down into the cargo airport section, which will lie in this sage over this point. But it is fun to see it all come to life, right? These airport DLCs. Airports are very, very fun to watch. Huge fan of them. Yes, please. Here we go. And also as well, we'll hopefully spot one whilst we're recording here before we carry on. But the flight path for this runway is directly over this junction. And as they come into land, they're very close to the road. So, nice happy little accident, but it doesn't look like there's anyone landing at the minute, so that's fine. Okay, so cool. We've at least got this connected in now, right? We're starting to develop some heavier sort of network infrastructure over this side now. Which is helping keeping people moving, indeed, even further into the Mar grid now too, which is really good. So again, it's more interconnectivity to keep the relentless mass grid moving as freely as possible. So now what we'll do is we're going to crack open this highway intersection over here, which the wonderful Eggsy and Karina have rounded off for us. And I'm going to feed this now directly up and into the downtown. We're going to cross it over the river. We're going to leave some connections spare here because I really want this to be a separate build. I'm looking to do almost like a recessed sort of grander country interchange with larger loops and sort of rock patterns around here that all interlink between downtown, highway, airport, and then the highway connection further down there. So this will be a separate project, but should be quite fun. But really, just a connection here so we can develop an interchange for this side of the airport so people can come and go. And they should also see the tunnel lines become active too. And then we can hook it in, and then we can probably start looking at a airfield detailing time-lapse for today because it's going to need a lot of detailing to make this thing fit in. But it's getting there. It's on its way now that the planes are coming and going. There you go. There's a jumbo OE jet again. Yes, please. There it goes. Is it landing actually? I think it's landing, isn't it? Yes, but very nice. Busy airport so far. I'm happy with it. So let's detail out some highway action, and then we'll be right back. Okay guys, so we can finally record again. I managed to speak after gawping at the airport for a little bit. I'm just obsessed with the view from the road here as the big sort of jumbos are flying by. Just enormous lover of this. The aesthetics that are starting to generate around the view to the Ilos Sky Harbour are truly special now. I'm really enjoying them. Okay, so let's have a look, review what's happened. The metro is now in. We've used one of the metro stations on the side to factor this into the concourse. And this is very reminiscent of the public transport network that is actually in Phoenix, serving the actual Sky Harbour. This kind of big, tall metro, almost monorail looking thing that flows now for a duration in the desert as we head back into the infrastructure, where we've also brought in the American 6-lane bridge, again, which gives us quite a nice foreground to this view of the downtown now, especially with those metros coming past as well, which we can hopefully get a little bit of an impression of here now, okay? So really cool, happy to see the public transport networks. And this connection into the downtown is actually alleviating so much pressure off of the rest of the road network. Just huge improvement. This road network did get a little bit busy at times, this big 5-way into the downtown that we all sort of know and remember this one because it's so huge. And it's just taking all the pressure off of it because people can get back to the highway now without having to wait there and try to get back into the turbine interchange. So really happy to see it's getting used. And of course, there's plenty of detail and whatnot to do around here when it all comes to it. And then we've also got one of the monorails flowing now, which comes out of the Sky Harbour. There you go, there's one of them. Back into the downtown parallel across the river, where again, we've got some more network and layer infrastructure starting to piece together now. The smart idea in hindsight would be to make this a monorail road and save the node count, but I'm appreciating that aesthetic, so it's going to stay. We are currently, actually, by the way, with everything in so far, we are at 61% of the nodes. So we're doing okay. We're doing all right. Like, we've used the vast majority of the nodes today as well. And we will also do network multi-tool across the entire concourse and taxiways to take nodes back as well, because there'll be a lot of extra in there that aren't needed. And then, yes, monorail ends here. So it's really cute. Really happy with it. It's slowly coming together. And there is still a ton of detailing work to do. But yeah, really happy with these road networks as well. And these are all getting used now, people using the different types of interchanges. And I'm really glad we've gone for these like super big bits of infrastructure because they've really settled in quite nicely alongside all the big infrastructure of the airport. And there you go. There's the plane coming in right over the road as it comes down into land. Yes, please. So good. That is such a happy accident. We like it. We like it. There's planes everywhere. Okay, so I'd like to have a little chat now about what is going to happen with the internals of the airport terminal forecourts. Let's come into some roads. We're going to grab ourselves some 16-meter parking lot service roads first. And then we're going to use these in order to, of course, we'll place some parking, but also to actually place in some assets as well. So let's go for a 40-meter parking lot. Okay, that's probably a little bit too short, actually. Let's go for something a touch deeper than that. Let's go on road length as well with no guideline. Okay, that's wonderful. Grab that in there as well. So we'll worry about heights right now. Let's go ahead and grab all the nodes. We'll do a little control on H and tell everyone to sit at the same height as the terminal. We do have some multi-story car parking in here as well, of course, which we definitely should be using. We'll see if we can rotate them onto another axis where it will look appropriate. We'll sort of bear it in mind for the time being, perhaps maybe over this side instead. Then, what I think will be more than welcome in the airport terminals, and of course we'll discuss one, and then during our detail time lapse we'll do up the rest as well, just so we have some initial templates. Let's come ahead and grab some of the taxi stands. Alright, and then let's go for right in the middle here. Then we'll copy and paste the other ones into the corners of this little block outside, and then plenty of surface painter. Not all around the internals of the forecourt. I'll leave the bits around the lake or the little oasis oasi, is that the plural? I'm not sure. We'll leave these a little bit more overgrown, but a little bit more concrete up on the second layer. And I think just because it's the airport, I don't really want to have to neglect ideas and try and save nodes. Like, this is the most node intensive build that is left in Ilos now. Nothing will eat as many nodes as this. So I just want to do a little stretch of walkable seawall key. We're going to grab all of those nodes And then we're just going to slide them up to the road. We're going to hit a control and H and tell them to sit. Not H. It doesn't be control and H, right? There we go, right. There's an eggism for you all. Let's go ahead and slide this up. And then we should hopefully just begin to receive a little bit of an impression as to what this is going to do for us for decorating some of these forecourt spaces. Of course, plenty of planters and other little bits of high density detailing in and around this space. And then if we save a little bit of that surface painter, we should hopefully now have quite an impressive little nighttime view if we can just switch to the twilight hours and enjoy the spice sample of what is available to us for decorating forecourts in the modded game. What a wonderful little cut-in layer that is, right? It makes the external area of the terminals just so much more interesting. Just a little drop from networks to a new layer, and then a slightly increased layer again with the depth of the monorail against the road. And of course the addition of the after dark lights just improve everything, don't they? They really do. And then there we go, we'll wait for our little monorail friend to pass by. And there we go. Starting to see the Ilos Sky Harbour come to life ever so slowly, but it's worth it, isn't it? It's worth it. Wonderful. So let's come back to daytime. So of course we'll get our parking spaces placed down during our detail time lapse. Let's get everyone in here. Garbage is being collected somehow, even though there's no garbage truck here. I'm guessing it stops at one of the other ones and it still counts, does it? Oh no, because these didn't clear either. That's very random. Okay, whatever. So we can also throw some of the hotels down here if we want. I've thrown one of the large ones over on this side, which I think I'm okay with. It probably, again, wants a key just along the back of it, so it helps it sit against this road a little easier, because this is a little bit too janky for me. But that should be okay. And then plenty more, basically, car parking and multi-story, exactly like we saw in the internal forecourts in the actual Sky Harbour in Phoenix. However, guys, that does feel like a good place for a detailing time-lapse. We have a bunch of work to do here today, including decorating all of the new major road infrastructure that now lies in this side of the desert. Lots of overgrowth around here, chain link fencing, etc. to really help it blend into the sort of general Ilos atmosphere. Further down in towards the entrance to the airport, we are going to do some highway sort of airport art, Ilos signs and flowers, and using some of the Hollywood sign props from the workshop as well, alongside plenty of car parking within the internal forecourts and just more general sort of inner concourse decorating like this, so it just all sort of blends into the theme. Of course, mass decorate the entire airfield with hangars, plane props, fuel tanks, etc. And also there's lots of fence detailing, of course, around the entire edge of it. I probably will use the airport fence. And then speaking of going through with Network Multi-Tool, I'm removing a bunch of nodes from this system because we've gone up to 61% of the nodes now. I think it's finished at. Of course, there'll probably be some ebb and flow here and there during the detailing time lapse, but it's not too bad now we've got the airport in. Of course, mimic and variate the interior detailing designs on this side of the concourse too, which again, I think we should look quite nice once we've got all this side, and also some sort of highway art concepts here too, out of the red flowers, again, just sort of looking around Phoenix and seeing what's happening near the Sky Harbour. But this should be an immense detailing time lapse. So let's detail the Ilos Sky Harbour, and then we'll be right back. Okay guys, so let's have a detailing review, shall we? There's an awful lot's happened, so let's recap. We have added in the cargo airport, however please ignore this current configuration. I'm going to separate the cargo side of the airport out to function with the refinery. We're not going to do it today because I need to get this video out and this build's becoming too big. So we now have some of the Hollywood letters, courtesy of Few Candy, who found these for her series in Oregon. It's a massive shout out for her for finding these on the workshop. Super cool assets, and of course they are lit up at night as always. Let's have a little look, shall we? There we go. So really cool big writing as we come into the city. Huge fan of it, sort of Ilos Sky Harbour text. Really, really cool. Love that. Alongside some highway art, of course. And some basic IMT dash markings across the intersection as well. As we arrive further into the internal area of the concourses, we have more of the sort of lake decoration. I rose up a few little islands as well, just so we could have some palms in. I think it just helps break up the shape of the lake as well, especially as the monorail flanks around it on a single one-way blade now, which makes use of both sides of it. Further alongside the road, we have added in some network fencing. However, as promised, we have been through the entire build with network multi-tools remove node function and removed all the nodes that we don't need. So this fencing that stretches all the way along here is actually only 2 nodes, and that's the same for all of the fencings that we've used today as well, including the airport fence that stretches around. It's only maybe using up 7 or 8 nodes as it turns around the corner because we've removed all of them with the network multi-tool. So nice and handy. Further into the terminals, we have some more decoration where there's a little cafe space alongside some of our favourite planters with some taxi stands and some fused dual hotel assets on the side as well. Alongside some coverage again and some multi-story. So all nice vibes happening over here. Again, this is the side that we looked at earlier. Outside the front of the main master terminal buildings, I've included some general park space. Almost as like a little sort of recreation and chill area, perhaps where the smokers can come before they actually enter the main building for their flight. And then it just links nicely into the monorail station. And just general bushes and benches and lights and stuff, all things that we're familiar with at this point in Ilos. And then the gardens also spill into a light up sculpture in these spaces that sit in the concourses. The concourses have also been played with node controller, so they lose their very straight sharp edge, just making them narrow and then wider as they come in. Furthermore, over here we've also used node controller to narrow the concourse as it comes to a close and fuse it into the side of a police station. Again, in an effort to almost give a vibe that the police have direct access into the airport from their building itself, and where we also have a security checkpoint asset here too. And then the office headquarters, of course. And then we've got some general car parking in amongst the airfield alongside some office spacing, alongside some of our props as well. Again, plenty of airport prop detail, including hangars, parked planes, etc., refueling depots. This theme repeats several times across the airfield, of course. And every single node within the airstrip now has been node controlled, which really widens them out and gives them a lot more importance, doesn't it? We placed in some luggage and collection vans and whatnot, crates that have had sort of areas taken out of them. And indeed, a little floating luggage cart there, which needs to be dropped down a little bit with prop snapping. But you get the idea, okay? It's sort of airfield logistics that take place, and then this theme also repeats over here again as well. But this time there's different shapes here, so using Move It to copy the entire thing over and then just chisel out little variations in the copied and pasted pattern can just allow us to sort of bulk detail the airfields, as these spaces are so big, just take a long time. Of course, everything's now configured with the taxiways and the runways, and with the final configuration we've got some really nice symmetry going on in places as well, which I'm really happy with. And these little sort of cut through roads here now are getting the occasional bit of use. We do hopefully see a car come through, or at least we will during the cinematics, at least anyway, I think, right? There we go, there's one in his little car. Cool. Further over on the other side of the terminal, there are more variations of terminal decoration, including some more cafes and some of those shelters, with an intercity bus station too, so we're going to get some intercity buses coming up this end of the terminal now as well. And again, some dual multi-story and hotel action to just help detail out the front of this terminal. So lots of different variation designs happening outside of the terminal spaces here now, and the front of the hotels kind of decorate themselves as well, which is quite nice. So I'm happy with the interior that's developed within the airport itself. Where we also have a mass jacaranda pattern and then an entrance into the airfield here with the little spinny things here, although this does need to be spun around so the vehicles can see a window on this side, but that's fine. There's also a jerry over here as well, of course, and then we have some trash that's been chucked out just on the side of the airport, where we blend into some helicopter service vehicles alongside another hangar with some more industrial fence detailing as we come into the airfield itself. We've also used some of Vanya's wonderful warehouse assets to create almost like a warehouse concourse that envelops this hangar complex, and it's turned out quite nicely. It sits directly under the flight path there as well, which is really cool. Yes, and then we emerge back out into the airfield to some more refueling stations, a small chain link yard that houses some private planes with some more airport lounges, alongside some more of these little sort of police props, and indeed a plane that's in the process of being loaded perhaps, and then ready to be tugged out with its little stairs, and it's all ready to go and ready to fly. And again, similar sort of concept vibes here, with lots of the airport props fused and moved it together with planes waiting to be serviced, and again collections of smaller assets here, and then indeed just some regular empty hangars as well, you know, not everything has to be full. Reinstated the entire desert grasses around the area that we forest brushed today, and then also there is a mass chain link fence perimeter running on the sort of outer empty desert that now just peers over into the sort of vast expanse in the run up to the runways. And then further over this side of the interchange we have some more highway arts, just knocking around here again, and just general spaces that can be expanded. Another Ilos Sky Harbour sign here on the entrance to this terminal. And we've not expanded this monorail system yet because it doesn't really have anywhere to go, of course. But again, it's just prepping for more public transport networks that can be expanded. Airport Metro is getting decent use now. This is the one that goes right to the start of the mile grid. So definitely an incoming first-person Metro tour at some point, because it starts all the way over here now. This one here. So, yes please, alright. We're going to have a first-person tour of that at some point soon. That's going to be a nice video. And then I'm also really happy with how the kind of airport sits from this little viewing park over here as well. You imagine this would be the aviation gang's wet dream, right? This is like super great watching for airplanes. It's constantly coming in, just super busy airport. It's averaging about like 81 to 90 active flights at all times. It's just, yeah, super busy. It's like wherever you look, there's planes coming in and landing. Concourse and taxiway systems are moving everyone around quite nicely. You do sometimes get this, but it's Cities Skylines AI, isn't it? You just got to accept it sometimes, I think. But yeah, all the runways are getting used, all the taxiways are nice and clear and flowing and plenty of space between, so buildings are being respected where they need to be. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, likes, comments and shares below really help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, then leave me a dislike as well. And this airport project definitely is not complete yet. There will be the entire cargo side to develop, but again, that will be tied in with the Ilos oil refinery. Do a big sort of import-export industrial complex centre in the east, or I guess it's northeast of the downtown here, isn't it? So definitely more to come and more detail and to be done in live streams, of course, so really looking forward to expanding it. This episode took ages to produce, as you can imagine. This was by far and away the biggest city build episode we've done on the channel ever. There's nothing has been this big or as detailed as the Ilos Sky Harbour. So I hope you have enjoyed it, and again, all that engagement below really helps me out, and a huge thank you again for 50,000 subscribers on the channel last week, I guess now by the time you guys will be seeing this video. But otherwise, please do hang around for some truly superb cinematics as the downtown, the mile grid sit in the background of this now. You can all imagine what the night time's going to look like. Otherwise, I will shut up and I will leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.